What is good, everybody? Crunchy Frog here with another commentary for you guys today, bringing you some gameplay from the brand new Modern Warfare 2 Open Beta Weekend number 2. So as you know, I currently game on an Xbox Series X, so I just got access to the beta today and have been playing around with it for about 3 or 4 hours tonight. Put a bunch of matches under my belt, so I wanted to toss out a video, give you my thoughts on it, and at the end also give some thoughts on Infinity Ward's reactions to the community feedback and kind of some of the changes that came about from weekend one last weekend, and maybe going forward between this weekend of the beta and the actual game release here in a little over a month. So while I did not play during weekend one, I did extensively watch a lot of streamers, YouTubers, stuff like that. I got a pretty good feel for the game, what would be good, what would be bad, and then I compared that to how I actually felt, behind the sticks today, playing around in it. So we'll start off with the good. So what about this game did I enjoy? And there was actually a fairly lot. I want to, just do a blanket statement here and say I did thoroughly enjoy this game. Obviously, a lot is yet to be seen, a whole lot more to be seen whenever the actual game comes out, but overall, my feelings on it are very positive. I had a good time. So with that being said, we will start with, again, the good, what I enjoyed. So the first off is the gunplay is actually really solid. It felt, obviously it's Call of Duty. The gunplay has been refined now for 15 years. I think this is the 15th year since COD 4 that they've really just been honing in on that multiplayer, tight, frenetic gunplay, and it feels really good. It honestly doesn't feel too different than Modern Warfare 2019. Maybe a little more refined, maybe a little less clunky. They've gotten the physics a little more under wraps with the new physics engine in these more recent games. So it feels great. And with that, the kills all feel very satisfying. I don't know if it's the hit markers. They have a great set of hit markers, both in terms of, the kill, like red X, and I think there's a separate one for critical hits and different things like that. But it feels very solid and is very rewarding. I find that these games with a little more recoil, with a little more realistic gunplay, feels a lot more rewarding. Not that the old games, Black Ops 1 and Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 2, stuff like that didn't feel rewarding to get kills, but this just feels like very crisp and clean when you do manage to get a kill, which for me is not that often because I'm not that great. And another thing is the attachments actually feel pretty meaningful. My buddy even mentioned that in the party, and we all agreed on it. You can tell the difference between them. I think Vanguard started to get a little too crazy with its attachments, obviously with 10 on each, equipable at any time, and every weapon having 70 levels. So I'm not sure what the end level for all of these guns will be, but it definitely seems like they're trying to first design a bunch of attachments that make sense for the weapon, and let that decide the weapon level and the amount of attachments for the gun again, kind of like Modern Warfare 2019 did. So they feel a little more impactful. There's not a crazy amount of options that are all stupid and pointless. At least in the beta, that could change in the full game, but as of right now, that's pretty good. And with that kind of ties into every gun kind of felt different again. Which Vanguard, there was very much so a problem of every gun kind of feeling the same, because you could kit them all out with 10 attachments and they all, kind of lost their identity after a while. But all these guns feel different and unique, and there's reasons to use one versus the other. And you definitely are able to find favorites, so that's great. And the visual improvements are actually really great. I think there's a brand new lighting system. Looks great. The sun is a lot less washed out, a little more realistic. We're still not quite to photorealism in some spots, but definitely a step forward. Not a huge leap forward, but a step forward for the franchise. And the maps are a lot more colorful with that as well. So a little more light, a little more color. Overall, I would say it looks great. It's a great looking game. The guns look incredible. Kind of focusing again on maps, I really enjoyed the Farm 18 and Mercado map, the kind of like Mexican town map, and then Farm 18. Farm 18 reminded me of like a COD 4 or original Modern Warfare 2019 map, kind of that like nondescript Russian, derelict like industrial area. Really good. I really liked the areas of the map. They all play differently. and it had a great flow to it, even with some issues that we'll talk about later. Just overall, a very great map. I enjoyed it a lot. Um, and it's something that I think I'll enjoy playing. Hopefully more maps are like those two. We'll talk about some of the maps I didn't like in the beta, but obviously we only have a small handful now. Hopefully we're seeing, in the teens amount of maps whenever it comes out here in a month. Um, and another thing is Ground War is very fun. I think it's now called like Invasion or something like that. I don't have it at the tip of my tongue right now, but the Ground War equivalent in this game is actually really fun. They have some AI in there that joins you, so it's like 20v20 and then 20 bots versus 20 bots as well. So it's like 40v40 with half of everyone in the game being human players. And it's a nice change of pace. It's a lot more casual. Listen to guys like Nero Cinema saying that, they could take their foot off the gas a little bit, still do decent, but, tone it back a little bit. Yeah, you might have some sweaty gunfights with the real people, but then you might be able to pop off, 2 or 3 AI here and there. And while obviously you don't get the same amount of XP or, counts towards your kill streak or whatever, it just kind of clicks that little part in your brain that you successfully won a gunfight, you killed someone, and it kind of releases that little bit of dopamine and makes it just overall a much more relaxing experience. So definitely in the last couple of days of this, because I'm making this on Thursday night, the first night of the beta, obviously the next couple of nights I'm going to play it some more. And I definitely want to play Ground War, a little bit more often to get some more thoughts on it. I also thought the weapon families are super cool. Like the new gunsmith system where you have basically like a tree, so to speak, where, depending on the receiver, it changes the platform of the gun. So you have like an LMG version of the M4, the normal M4, the M16. In this game, it's called the Hurricane. It's like a weird M4 with like a P90 mag on top, and that's the SMG. And then there's like a marksman rifle kind, and it looks like there's several weapon frames. We don't know how many there will be at launch. I think there's like 2 right now. The other one you can kind of make like a G3 or an MP5 or an LMG, same type of thing, right? So same weapon family like you would see in real life. And that changes up the leveling and everything. And I'm not going to do a full deep dive on that right now. Obviously, that would be something for a different video where I fully explain all the classes and whatever. But it just adds a decent thing to the gameplay and makes it kind of, changes things up in a meaningful way and not just for the sake of innovation. And with that, the weapon vault that you get, now I did get the vault edition. I know, I gave $100 to Activision, but the deal actually wasn't too bad. Again, not going to get into that either, but I did get the weapon vault, so that came with the Cinder weapon vault. And I think it's really badass. They tailored every single attachment for every weapon, for the M4, I guess, to this like Cinder. It's like carbon fiber and like crimson red metal. Realistic looking, but super cool. And I hope they do a lot more of the weapon vaults. Obviously, I know they'll have some skins that are just normal blueprints, but I really hope they put out a lot of cool weapon vaults that, no matter what attachments you have on it, it looks the way that the blueprint or the, skin is supposed to look. So really looking forward to that in the full release. And good news for pretty much everyone out there, if you haven't played yet, there is less doors than Modern Warfare 2019. There is still doors, but they almost feel like they make sense where they are now. But there is a lot less, almost to the point to where I started thinking the doors were just walls again. In Modern Warfare 2019, I kind of had the issue where I just run into every single wall thinking it was a door because there was just doors everywhere, so I assumed I could get everywhere on the map. It's kind of the opposite now, where they've thankfully scaled back the number of doors per map, at least on the beta maps, and to the point to where I just thought I was walled off from some exits because the door was closed. So there are still in there, kind of down to a level I would call acceptable. They kind of serve a purpose. Not all of them. Some of them should be removed still, but definitely a lot more manageable than Modern Warfare 2019. The dolphin dive and slide mechanic feels awesome. I'm so glad they finally added this. They added them both. For years, I feel like we've been going back and forth between, a dolphin dive Call of Duty, and then the next year was a sliding one, and back and forth and back and forth. They finally added them both, and you can kind of pick it at your discretion. You either press the stick once to slide or hold it in and you flop, you do a big dolphin dive. And you can even dolphin dive through windows and behind cover. It's a little more of a vertical jump. Super great and adds a lot of meaningful, value to the movement system in this game. So I love it. Thank you so much, Infinity Ward, for that. It makes the game feel really great. And with that, as well, there's no more slide canceling. In my notes here, I have no more slide canceling rose skins. Thank God. Obviously, as you know, they took out slide canceling, which is a big part of the movement mechanic in the last couple of Call of Duties. And in my opinion, it makes it feel more fair, right? There's not as much cheesability, as I call it, not as much ways to kind of game the system, and, slide canceling was in and of itself a glitch. So I'm glad that they removed that. I'm happy to see that. And overall, the movement does still feel a little clunky. It's not great, but by and large, I enjoy, the product as a whole. Real quick, I'll touch on the perk package. I actually think it's kind of a neat idea. I hope they hone it and trim it down, and I might make a separate video later on detailing what I would change with it. Obviously, that's kind of stuff that I'll do after the game releases, because there's still a month for them to tweak things. But as it stands right now, I kind of enjoy the idea of unlocking additional perks as the game goes on. And it's not like my favorite thing in the world, but it's definitely not bad enough to put on the bad section. And I kind of do agree with where they're going, so we slapped it on here in a good section. And last but not least, obviously I said it in the beginning, I actually had a lot of fun with this game. So I definitely recommend it overall to anyone, especially if you're going to be getting the game, you already pre-ordered it. You might as well download it. It's only 30 gigs. Plop it on your hard drive, have some fun for a night or two, and get yourself ready for next month. So now we'll slide on over to the bad category. Now I have good, bad, and ugly, so this is the bad in terms of a negative thing, but not so bad that it ruined my experience in any way. The skill-based matchmaking is obviously still in the game. It didn't feel as sweaty as before. Wasn't quite as toned up. Definitely you could tell, you were, it was putting you in sweatier lobbies the better you did. But it maybe wasn't as tweaked out as it was in Modern Warfare 2019. So I don't have it in my ugly category just because I didn't find myself actively angry about it, throughout the course of the game. One thing I was kind of angry about, and honestly, I had to choose whether it was on my bad list or my ugly list, but the museum map is garbage, man. I'm sorry. I apologize to any devs that might watch this, or people that like the map that may watch this, but museum is garbage. There's way too much unused space. People have videos showing like a whole chunks of the map that literally no one goes to throughout the entire match. The map is way entirely too big for 6v6. I don't know if they're going to add the combat pacing from games like Vanguard that had the combat pacing, but this needs to be like a 10v10 or 12v12 map for it to actually feel like a reasonable amount of action. And kind of to tie in with that, there's no flow to it. The map just doesn't flow well. Like there's some kind of paths that I started to feel out, and maybe that'll change as I put in several more hours to the game, and after release put days of gameplay into it. But just as of right now, it feels like there's no flow, and that's exacerbated by the mini-map changes, which we'll get into in the ugly section. But it's just bad, and the graphics look kind of weird. Like the way they have the bricks on the buildings, and just some of the like really open, spacious, like it just looks kind of like dated for no reason. Like the other maps look great, and museum just kind of looks like shit. So I don't know. It was by far my least favorite map, and unfortunately, it's like every other match you play at museum. Like I feel like it comes up, 3 times as much as the other maps by far. So moving away from museum, because I could probably make my own rant video on that alone. The TTK is slightly too fast. So I enjoy the fact that it's a fast time to kill game, but it's just a little too fast for me. Sometimes you literally just die in like one bullet, or you start to turn around because you think you maybe hurt, and you're just wiped. By the time that your brain physically sends neural impulses to your fingers to move, you're dead already. It's kind of crazy sometimes. So if they could dial that back just a little bit, 5-10%. I don't know, how that would even work, but it would benefit the game greatly. I love the fast TTK, don't get me wrong, but just dial it back a little bit. Footsteps and gunfire are way too loud, and they're too integral to the game. Sound whoring in general is way too integral to the game. It's kind of sad. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the minimap, but it's just if you don't have a headset on, you're not gonna do a quarter as good as Whereas before, sound whoring just gave you slightly advantage. Now it's like the whole game because of the minimap and just how loud they have all those things. Like they want you to just put on a headset and guess where people are the entire game. So that's kind of rough. We'll get that into the ugly section as well. Finally, well, not finally. There's a couple more items here, but I came across various bugs and visual glitches and connection issues and server disconnects. I put it in the bad category just because obviously that's a negative experience, but I understand. It's a beta. I'm not exactly like pissed about it. I understand what's happening. So I had to put it here, but just know it's a beta. There's going to be a bunch of glitches. They already took out a map the first weekend because it was glitching out, I think, Museum actually. So yeah, there's going to be glitches all over the place. It is what it is. Hopefully a lot of those are fixed either at launch or by season 1, whatever the case, as normal COD games go. One of the rough things though is the UI is kind of bad. Obviously, a lot of people have been talking about this, how confusing the menu system is and the user interface, and it is really like it looks clean on the menus, but it's just all over the place. It's very hard to navigate. I feel like the last 3 games have spoiled us in that they have a lot of information on them, more information than any other COD before, but they're very navigatable. They're easy to move around, and you know where you're going, you know where you should be going to get stuff done. This game, not so much. So I really hope that changes before launch, because that was, again, on the verge of going in the ugly category. It was that rough. And with that as well, to kind of tie in, is the on-screen alerts and challenge, pop-ups in-game are kind of terrible as well. Like the font, it's so dumb to say, but the font itself almost rubs me the wrong way. You know what I mean? So it is kind of rough in that regard. Again, these could be placeholder fonts. We've seen that before in a beta. By the time the game comes out, they use a different font, or they display, the challenge icon pops down a little bit bigger for you or makes a different noise. It just doesn't feel like I was leveling up weapons, leveling myself up and completing challenges, and I didn't even know about it. And that's one of the core, dopamine releases for COD is, I got 25 headshots, I got a cool medal, and the screen kind of lights up to let you know and congratulate you, or just the font. Like whenever I was shooting somebody, I kind of wish they'd just taken the same font from Modern Warfare and maybe made it green, because the whole theme is green for Modern Warfare 2. So I hope to see that changed along with the menus, but we'll have to wait and see. A tiny little complaint, but the lifeless announcers and factions are back again. It's just kind of like 2 teams that hate each other. I will say it's better in Vanguard. You're not versing yourself. You're not Ghost versus Ghost. It's 2 different factions, quote unquote good guys versus bad guys. So that is cool. I love that they carried that from Modern Warfare. But again, they don't have, at least I don't think they were anyone meaningful, unless I didn't quite get the voices right in my time. But the things I miss about the old games are, whenever we had like Ice Cube, doing the Navy SEALs in Modern Warfare 2, and you had Captain Price and stuff like that, just a meaningful announcer, someone cool to listen to, and just, it's stupid, but it gets you in the game, right? And that's, again, kind of missing because now they have operators. So, but I did wish that they would have, maybe the main bad guy voice the bad guys, and, someone like Soap or Ghost or Captain Price voice the good guys. Maybe they did, and sorry about that, my controller fell. Maybe they already have that, and it's just really stupid. Who knows? But anyways, we now have to move on to the ugly portion, and this is the portion that really kind of made me not enjoy some of my time spent today. And the biggest of which is the lack of red dots appearing on minimap when you fire a weapon. We'll get into Infinity Ward's comments on that here shortly. I do want to take a portion of the video without being too long-winded to talk about that. But holy hell, man. I hate games that do this. They tried this in Modern Warfare 2019, and I hated it then. It hurts the flow of the game. The whole thing is whenever you see unsuppressed gunfire, it kind of tells you how the match is flowing. It gives a little more flow. It tells you where to go. Whenever you fire, people come to you, and you can use that to your advantage. We could go on for this for an entire video, and maybe I will make a video later, but overall, the minimap thing is just terrible. I please, Infinity Ward, just make me appear on the map if I fire an unsuppressed weapon, and, same for my enemies. It makes the game go a whole lot better. Matches last less time, people camp less, people are less reserved and conservative on the battlefield itself. It's just a more fun experience. And so please, that was a huge, a huge downturn for me, as for many of the community, apparently, because everyone's kind of in an uproar. And then second of all, I only have two in the ugly category, luckily, but the second is the reload canceling. So I'm not sure if it's a glitch or if it's an intended consequence, but you cannot reload cancel. And I don't mean just like, in previous games, you could knife or something or start sprinting a little bit early to shave off that extra half a second at the end of your reload where the bullets were already in the gun. No, I'm talking like once you press reload, and if the mag leaves your gun, if the mag doesn't leave your gun, you can still reload cancel. But again, that's what, 3 or 4 frames before the mag usually leaves the gun in a reload animation. But if the mag leaves the gun at all, you have to play it out. Even if you switch to your secondary and then you switch back to your primary, the reload animation just keeps going, which kind of makes me think it's a glitch, because that makes no sense. But just please bring back reload canceling. If you do, these 4 actions, sprint, knife, weapon swap, whatever, it cancels the reload. I've died countless times. I've heard guys like Prestige and Exclusive Ace and a couple other guys that I watch, they all said the same thing, right? They've died dozens of times now because we're all habitual reloaders, right? And you go to reload after a gunfight, and suddenly you're stuck there for the entire, 2.3 seconds or whatever it is. And no matter what, if somebody walks in on you, you can't reload cancel and try to murk them. You're just dead. There's nothing you can do. I guess switch your pistol, but again, you're most likely dead. So that's rough. I really hope they change that. I really hope it's a bug. I don't think they've really mentioned it in their blog post. I'm going to pull up the blog post now for the next section of the video, but I don't think it was mentioned. But I really hope that they change that up going into the full release, especially if it's just a glitch. Which brings me to the final port, which is Infinity Ward's comments. They took feedback from Reddit and Twitter and a bunch of other things, obviously probably YouTube and Twitch, from weekend 1, and they made some changes and distinctively did not make some other changes going into weekend 2 of the beta. So we're going to talk about those here, and I will link the entire blog post in the comment section below. I'll probably flash little screenshots of part of it on your screen as I talk about the various issues. So we'll just hit the big points. In terms of their thoughts on the minimap dot rolls, with, again, firing unsuppressed weapons, they say, currently in the Modern Warfare 2 beta, we only show enemy player dots when a UAV is active. The design reason for this is that we do not want to punish players for firing their weapons. We also want players to actively search out the origin of a gunshot versus just traveling directly to where the dot is on the minimap. We will continue to gather feedback on how the game is playing in regards to this topic. So basically what they're saying is, I hear what you're saying, but you're wrong. and that's terrible, in my opinion, from a developer. Again, I'll probably make an entire video on this, so I'm not going to tie you guys down too long on this, but like the whole part of the game is hunting people down, right? I mean, this has to be another like stupid procedure to hopefully get, some super casual fan people to play the game a little more often, while simultaneously alienating like 90% of the player base, if not more. Again, the game flows so much better. It just feels better. You should be punished for firing your weapon. That's kind of the whole point, right? And the game has 90 million suppressors in it, right? So just put on a suppressor if you're really that worried about it. And they can even, tune the suppressors to give you, maybe one suppressor only keeps you off the mini map for your first 2 shots, or whatever the case may be. They could tune it so it has varying degrees of effectiveness, but they have like 3 or 4 suppressors in the game, and that'll probably go up. Just please, for the love of God, like, bring this back. I'm so mad, and as are many other people, that they basically saw all the feedback, saw everyone complaining about it, and just said, yeah, but we really think what we think is better, and just did not do anything with it. So that kind of sucks. I'll flash this up briefly, and I won't talk about it in full, but essentially, in weekend 1, like, the gunfire smoke and the visibility of the muzzle flash and everything was way too high. They did scale that back, and it feels pretty good in weekend 2. I didn't play week 1, so I can't tell you guys. A couple of the people I watched say that it's much better in week 2. They enjoy it a lot, and it feels good now. So I appreciate Infinity Ward for scaling back on that and making a palpable change. Improving probably countless gunfights, and visibility. Still a little rough here and there, but that is what it is. And in terms of the user interface, they've said, we've seen the feedback around difficulty editing perk packages, managing loadouts, and accessing the armory. We have identified some UX issues as well as some bugs. These are things we will not be able to adjust in time for the beta weekend 2, but they are at the top of our mind ahead of launch. So it sounds like, kind of like I'd mentioned before, it's not something they're going to be able to change overnight. They're probably going to have to work really hard with their user experience team, their user interface team, and craft, some better menus and better user flows and everything like that. That's not going to be something they could do, on a Tuesday evening. That's going to be, probably a couple weeks. So we might see it before launch. If not, maybe even by like season 1, it might be one of those type of things, or maybe even a day 0 patch. So it is. I am happy to hear that they are working on that, and hopefully we'll see that come launch. So in terms of perks, they say we've seen varied feedback on the perk package system. Some players love it and others feel it is an unnecessary departure from the original system. We feel it's a nice shakeup to how perks work and our general progression of a match. We've also balanced the ultimate perks to be more powerful since you earn them later in the match. We'll continue testing throughout Beta Weekend 2, including drastically accelerating the earn rate of these to see how players react. Our goal remains improving the flow of all perks ahead of launch. So for that part, I kind of agree with. Again, I have nothing against the system, so it's kind of neither here nor there for me, but I am happy that they're listening to people, trying to find ways to make it work without completely walking back their brand new system, while still making people happy. Now, the part that is going to be a hot topic, and they even say it here, Dead Silence is another hot topic, as many players have expressed that they would like to see it as a perk instead of just a field upgrade. We believe it is important to game health that rushers are not able to move at high speeds without consequence. Dead Silence as a field upgrade creates a balance between freedom of movement and predictability of combat. So again, I could make it a whole video about this, but I really do feel like it should be a perk. Again, it sounds like they're trying too hard to cater to campers or new players that, whatever the case may be. Not that I don't rage when I die by somebody with Ninja or Dead Silence or whatever in the past, but it is part of the game, and it is a very useful tactic. To lock it behind a field upgrade kind of sucks. Maybe if that field upgrade is super quick recharging, that might be a nice middle ground for him, that people can still use it a decent amount, but, maybe not all the time as a compromise. But again, that could be a whole nother video. Not going to get into that too much, but just wanted to throw that out there. It is a hot topic in the community right now. People are pissed. They also go into detail about footsteps. Footstep audio in week 1 was very high, giving players long distance directional information about enemies. For weekend 2, we have some changes coming in. We are reducing the range of footstep audio for the various player movement states, jog, sprint, and tactical sprint. This will help soften the cost of moving around the map. The second change is that enemy and friendly footsteps are now distinct. This should help players better understand what's going on as things move around on a battlefield. More details to follow. So they claim they nerf footsteps. They're still very loud. I don't think they change much of anything. Most of the videos I've watched say that, yeah, maybe down a decibel or two, but hardly anything. So, we'll see what they do before launch. But again, I wasn't a huge fan of the extremely loud elephant steps. And finally, they go on. I'm not going to read it all off, but they do talk about slide canceling, and they acknowledge that everyone is pretty happy that that's out of the game, and they're also looking into a workaround too. So people have tried to exploit it and find a way around it, and they're like, no, 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 we're going to cut you off the pass there as well. So awesome. Thank you so much, Infinity Ward, for being top of the game, and acknowledge, kind of the positive feedback that you receive as well. I know it's one thing to talk about whenever the community gives you hell, but it's also nice that you see us when we're praising you as well, and acknowledge that you're going to keep doing the things that we appreciate, like slide canceling, and other things like that. So overall, guys, again, I enjoyed my experience greatly. I'll be playing this the next couple of days on and off to get a little more gameplay in for you guys for the channel, and then we're going to take a month off from the game as they polish it up, and they'll give it back to us here at the end of October. So if you have the game pre-ordered already, or you're thinking about doing it, I definitely recommend it. Download the beta. Is super small, like 30 gigs, which for COD is minuscule. So slap it down on your hard drive if you have the space. Give it a play for a couple days. It's not going to kill you. I certainly enjoyed it, and if anything, hopefully it acts as a nice appetizer to next month, and gets us even more hype for the release. So I want to thank everyone for sticking around, and as always, if you enjoy similar content to this, please check out my playlist for both gameplay reviews as well as Call of Duty commentaries, and gameplay commentaries in general. If you stuck around this long and you've enjoyed the content, please leave a like and subscribe for more similar content. And yeah, stay tuned for a bunch more content from Modern Warfare 2 going forward. I'm excited. I hope you guys are as well. And yeah, I hope to make a lot more great content for this game for you guys. So without further ado, you guys have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you next time.